Hello and welcome to our ILCS 1101 final project. I'm Jack Reever.
And I'm Apuzzo.
And I'm Brianna Gambacini.
And today we're going to be talking about marriage during the Italian Renaissance. Throughout this course, we've studied Renaissance paintings, stories, and other literature that discuss love and marriage in different capacities. Boccaccio's stories in the Decameron give us insight into the day-to-day lives of married couples in the Renaissance. Two of Botticelli's paintings, which were given as wedding gifts, tell us more about expectations involved in marriage at the time. Finally, we can examine some historical Renaissance couples to understand the real motivation behind the binding contract that was marriage.
During the Italian Renaissance, according to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the ritual actions of the father handing the daughter to the husband, expressed in the Latin phrase tradire filium suam, and the husband taking the woman into his house, uxorem ducere, were the essence of the ceremony. Like the many gifts exchanged before and after the ceremony, the bride herself was an object handed from one owner to another.
Additionally, quote, marriages, which were also mergers, were potentially explosive moments, and lavish festivities may have diffused some of the tensions that might arise between families over dowry arrangements and other touchy subjects, end quote. Because of this, weddings put on by wealthy and powerful families were major community events that took place over at least a few days, with processions, parades, performances, and parties. Weddings between families of power were done to maintain stable society by perpetuating civic and political institutions.
The institution of marriage has influenced the workings of human society for a very long time, and people's understanding of marriage and its purpose has changed throughout history. Though nowadays marriage is seen as a commitment made out of love, in Renaissance Italy, the upper class used marriage mainly as a business contract in order to consolidate power by creating a partnership between two families of similar societal status.
Machiavelli is often the first man people think of when they contemplate how to consolidate and maintain power. He wrote the entire book titled The Prince, which indirectly addresses this very topic through its discussion of how to succeed as a leader. In the chapter 7 of The Prince, Machiavelli talks about a man named Caesar Borgia and how he was extremely skillful in maintaining his power, even though he gained it through fortune. On page 22, he says, "If we look at all the things Borgia did, we will see he had laid solid foundations for future power," end quote.
One of these things Borgia did was marrying Charlotte d'Albret, the wealthy sister of King John III of Navarre. The marriage was not based in love, but in business. According to the Encyclopedia of World Biography, King Louis XII gave Borgia the French Duchy of Valentinois and the County of Diwa only 2 months after his wedding to Charlotte. This began a long and profitable alliance between Borgia and France, through which Borgia received military aid, control over multiple territories, and ultimately lots and lots of power. Clearly, his marriage to Charlotte d'Albret was purely for business purposes. He gained an incredible amount of power and influence by marrying this French woman of high social status.
This attitude towards marriage and love during the Renaissance can also be observed in the literature written during this time period. Boccaccio's The Decameron is a collection of novellas with various topics and themes, but what makes this work stand out is the fact that it was written by an established author for the purpose of entertainment and was created to be accessible to the public. Boccaccio wrote it in the vernacular instead of in Latin, which was perceived to be the intellectual's language at the time. Because of this accessibility, women were able to read these stories and they were considered as an audience by Boccaccio.
One novella in the Decameron that discusses marriage is the first novella of Day 4. In this story, Tancredi, the Prince of Salerno, is the father of one daughter named Gismonda. He kept his daughter for himself for a very long time before eventually marrying her off to the son of the Duke of Capua. However, this marriage ended abruptly with her husband's death, so she returned home to Tancredi. Because he was so fond of his daughter, who is described as beautiful, charming, and intelligent, and because he had nobody else, he was in no rush to marry her off again. As a result, Gismonda grew bored and lonely, so she took it upon herself to find a lover.
She found love in a man named Guiscardo, Tancredi's valet. They would meet in a secret cavern that was conveniently attached to her bedroom. One day, Tancredi went to Gismonda's room and caught her in the act with Guiscardo. Tancredi was overcome by a jealous rage, and while he didn't interrupt at the time, he proceeded to arrest Guiscardo and have him murdered. Tancredi then confronted Gismonda the next morning and scolded her for her choice in a man by saying, quote, "You brought so much dishonor upon yourself. In God's name, you might at least have chosen someone whose rank was suitable to your own. Instead, you have to choose Guiscardo, a youth of exceedingly base condition, whom we took into our court and raised from early childhood mainly out of charity," end quote.
This story relates to our topic of marriage being used for business and family relations because Tancredi is ashamed in his daughter for copulating with a man of such low status. Her sleeping with anybody on her own accord would be an offense to Tancredi, but her choice of a man of such a low ranking exacerbated this offense.
Gismonda tells her father that she loves Guiscardo and that she will continue to love him until she dies. She admonishes him for his lack of effort to marry her off and tells him that he has no right to be angry since she did everything in her power to keep this love a secret and not tarnish his name. Gismonda also finds Tancredi's accusations baseless because he praises Guiscardo for his manners and nobility. Guiscardo acted like a true nobleman, so the only thing standing between him and Gismonda was money. This proves that Tancredi's anger is not a product of his daughter's actions, but instead is due to the societal structures of love and marriage at the time. Gismonda simply was not allowed to love Guiscardo because he was of a lower class and would have made her family look bad. Though it's just a story, this tale reflects the actual standards of love and marriage during the Italian Renaissance. Women were supposed to marry men of similar societal status to their own because marriage was a matter of business, not love.
Another novella that explores marriage is the fifth story of The Fourth Day, a similar tale to the last that deals with a love forbidden by class and social structure. In this story, Lisabetta, the sister of three rich merchants, falls in love with their servant Lorenzo. The eldest brother discovers Lisabetta and Lorenzo's affair and tells his brothers. Together, they lure Lorenzo out to the countryside and murder him, telling Lisabetta he is just away on a business trip whenever she asks.
The reason that Lisabetta's brothers forbade her from loving Lorenzo and took action to end his life is because he was of lower societal status than the family. Because the brothers were the only family Lisabetta had, it was their job to marry her, and they had to marry her to a man of power to optimize their own social status and wealth. Lisabetta would not marry another man if she was in love with Lorenzo, so they had to dispose of him. These two stories demonstrate Boccaccio's distaste for the foundations of marriage during the time period. Most women were not allowed to marry the people they loved, and instead newlyweds were expected to grow to love their assigned spouses.
The ninth story of The Fourth Day, meanwhile, is a story of a couple that is already married. Guillaume de Roussillon and his wife were married, but his wife wasn't faithful to him and was having an affair with a lifetime friend of Roussillon's, Guillaume de Cabestan. Upon finding out about the affair, Roussillon kills Cabestan and he tears out his heart with his own hands.
Returning to his castle, Roussillon asks his chef to prepare the heart in the most delicious way possible. He then feeds the heart to his wife and afterwards discloses to her that it was the heart of her lover. The wife, heartbroken that her true love is dead, decides that she no longer has a reason to live or serve Roussillon and kills herself by jumping out of a window. Roussillon, stricken with grief after the death of his wife, learned to, quote, repent the wickedness of his crime, end quote. He buried his wife and Cabestan together in a tomb that served as a monument to true love.
These stories in the Decameron illustrate people's understanding of true love during the Renaissance. People knew of true love and often experienced it, but because of the structure of marriage, people could often not pursue their true loves. Especially in families of higher class, the women were married off not to the man who would treat her the best or make her the most happy, but instead to the husband who came with the most perks for the family.
During the Renaissance, expecting true love and happiness in a marriage was unrealistic, and instead, women had to learn to love the husbands to which they were assigned or else just be unhappy. Affairs and cheating are common occurrences in the stories of the Decameron, and this behavior could be accredited to the nature of marriages and relationships at the time. Of course, the Decameron isn't representative of the true way things were during the Renaissance because it was a book written primarily for entertainment purposes. However, the actions of the characters in the Decameron are reflective of the way people acted during the society.
Inspired by another Decameron story, Lorenzo the Magnificent Medici commissioned a series of 4 paintings to be given to a couple on their wedding day. So the artist Botticelli painted the story of Nastegio degli Onesti, which depicts story 8 from day 5, in which a man named Nastegio loses all of his money just trying to impress the daughter of Messer Paolo Traversari, a woman who, quote, was persistently harsh and unfriendly towards him, end quote. While near the woods one day, he meets the ghost of a knight who killed himself due to a similar situation in which the woman he loved was cruel to him. The knight is now in hell, where he must pursue and brutally kill this woman every day. Nastegio uses this story to convince the woman he loves to marry him by throwing a dinner party in exactly the right time and place so that she and her family will witness the knight murdering the other cruel woman.
One of the 4 panels of Botticelli's painting depicts this banquet. In the panel, as described by the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the naked woman is nipped by dogs in the foreground prior to being eviscerated at the hands of the knight. The fact that this image was given as a wedding gift shows that love was often not a part of marriage during the Renaissance. A painting of a man and woman stuck in hell and forced to act out the same murderous scene day after day can be seen as a warning to the newlyweds. To the bride, it says, "This is the afterlife that awaits you if you are cruel to your husband or don't learn to love him." To the groom, it sends the message that no matter how poorly your wife treats you, you must not give in to despair or kill yourself. Basically, it says you don't need her to love you in order to have a successful life. It seems like the painting was truly meant to be given to a couple who did not love each other in order to warn them of the consequences of searching for love in marriage. This further supports the fact that marriage was not about love during the Renaissance. The business contract between the families was the most important part of a wedding.
Just like the story of Nastegio degli Onesti, a painting titled La Primavera was also commissioned as a wedding gift, this time for a cousin of Lorenzo the Magnificent in 1482. The rightmost side of La Primavera depicts a god, Zephyr, about to rape a nymph named Chloris, who is clearly fearful and doesn't want anything to do with him. Initially, it is quite shocking that a painting of a rape would be given to the bride on the day of her wedding.
However, next to the rape scene is a transformed Chloris, now named Flora, who looks beautiful and happily pregnant despite having been fearful of Zephyr at first. This implies that a woman can learn to be happy with a man she didn't think she loved. Therefore, it makes sense that La Primavera was given as a wedding gift. The scene between Zephyr and Chloris could be comforting to a bride who does not feel any love for her new husband. The fact that La Primavera was given to a new couple truly shows that loveless weddings were common during the Renaissance, especially for upper-class citizens, because marriage was used to create a business partnership between rich and/or powerful families.
In Renaissance Italy, marriage was used by the men of a family as a vehicle toward future success, basing their decision of which bachelor a woman should marry on his family's social, political, or financial status. People in the Renaissance believed in true love, but most could not pursue this because it was unrealistic. Instead, women were expected to grow to care for and love their given husband. Women who had affairs with men or dated outside of their power ranking were considered insubordinate, since their inertness was an integral part of the structure of marriage at the time.
Thank you for watching our ILCS 1101 final project. Once again, I'm Cassie Apuzzo.
I'm Brianna Gambacini.
And I'm Jack Reever. We hope you enjoyed the movie.